Kevin Roth here of RotoGrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that RotoGrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on RotoGrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels, and we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your RotoGrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @RotoGrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time here on RotoGrinders, free for all the people, thanks to Fanduel. I am Britt Devine, joined today. We'll start first with Christy, normally the weekend crew. Christy, we've been doing this for basketball all season. Welcome to baseball.
I am so excited. I mean, this has to be one of the best weeks out there with all of the, Masters and baseball and basketball, but I'm so excited to do this season and excited to start it out with both you and Derek. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm almost too busy between DFS and the sports books and all the sports. I feel like I'm in over my head.
I know, right?
But Mr. Carty, the creator of the bat, is here today. Derek, what's up, man?
Not much. I'm I'm excited. New baseball season. Things are good.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about today because there's just like, I don't know, there's not a lot of the pitching this year, the projections, Cardi, they haven't really been great this year. What's going on? They're just like none of the star pitchers are pitching anymore.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot. I mean, some of these guys have been hurt. It's a shortened spring training, so like not everyone has as long of a leash as they might normally have. This time of year, like today, I think the most pitches anyone is projected for in the bat for the whole day, not just for the slate, is like, I think we have like 3 guys projected for over 90 pitches or something like that. It's, so that just that volume aspect is going to hurt things. And there's a DH this year everywhere. So that's going to create more runs and, weaker pitching projections than, for half the league relative to last year.
There's a game I noticed. I was talking to you earlier. It's not on this slate, but the Dodgers, I was looking at the bat, a 9.1 run total for the Dodgers tonight. I had to give the double take on that one, but that is just what a good lineup and a DH and Coors does for you.
I mean, it's insane. Like the Dodgers lineup, I can't understate how good it is. I know it's not on this slate, but like I looked at like the overall average quality of the Dodgers lineup, and it's on average, there's only 30 or 35 hitters in all of baseball, individual hitters that are as good as the Dodgers lineup collectively.
They're all on the Dodgers.
Yeah, I know. They are. Like, they're just so freaking good. And it's in Coors and it's hot, even though it's April, and there's a hitter's umpire, and it's just like there's a DH, and the Dodgers are just so good.
Yeah. All right. So if you're like me and you're in over your head on sports betting, make sure to check out Scores and Odds. It's sort of our thing here at RotoGrinders for sports betting. It's been great for basketball. You can check it out for baseball as well. Lines up all the best places, right? If you want to take a pitcher K prop, you can go to Scores and Odds, and within seconds, you can see what site has the best line. And literally that alone makes it worth the subscription if you put any sort of volume in on sports betting, but you also get all the projections as well on there. So make sure to check that out on our end. And I want to give a nice hat tip to Fanduel for sponsoring this. If you are new to a Fanduel sportsbook, you can get up to a $1,000 bonus through them signing up through the links here on RotoGrinders. With that said, Cardi, let's talk pitching. We'll do Fanduel first. Let me know if there's anything different from on DraftKings. We'll talk more of the cash games. We'll let Christy mix in with a little more of the tournaments. What are we looking at today, right? We got Brandon Woodruff, who is high priced, but the projection, at least according to the BAP, isn't really that dissimilar from guys like Mikolas, who is the pitcher facing the Pirates. So he gets a nice bump today. There's a couple other guys in the mix here. What are we really doing? Is it Woodruff, or are we saving a couple of bucks to maybe get something, some better bats on FanDuel today?
Yeah, I'm fine going either way. I don't think there's a guy you have to have, even in cash games. Woodruff is the top raw option, but he's the most expensive. It's a good matchup. The Cubs offense this year is really, really bad. It's funny, like they were so good for so long, and I don't know if the reputation of them is going to like linger a little bit, but this is one of the worst offenses in baseball. And Woodruff's obviously the most talented pitcher on the slate. Depending where you're looking at the weather, there might be a little bit of wind blowing in, which would be a good thing for Woodruff. The bat thinks it's more across the field right now, but if it does kind of shift and blow in a little bit, then all the better for him. I'm fine with Mikolas though. You're getting a little bit of a discount on him. He's built up pretty well in spring training. Like I said, there's not a lot of pitchers that are projected for even 90 pitches today. Mikolas could go 100 if he wanted today. If he's pitching well, like he's one of the more built up guys, which makes a difference. And he's facing the Pirates. So yeah, I think in cash games, I'd probably lean towards one of those two.
All right. I think I agree with you. I'm going to throw it to Christy for tournament pitching on FanDuel. You see when I don't think my ownership, maybe it's pulling it off the all day slate or something like that. But, you've got guys like Cease and you've got Sonny Gray. You can go cheap with a couple guys too. What's sort of your differentiation? If everyone knows Woodruff, right, for upside, you can't get all the bats you want with him, but you can get plenty of them. Mikolas, maybe not as much upside, but he is going up against the Pirates. So that does tick him up to have a reasonably good game. What else is out there for upside for tournaments?
Yeah, there's a few guys I'm looking at. And like we said, I think Woodruff is a good play, but there's so many guys in there that you can save some money that I prefer to get the bats in today. So for tournaments, I'm looking at Cease. He was actually ahead of Woodruff last year in strikeout rate just by a little bit. His control isn't quite as good, but I think he's a really good play. He's 9,800 on FanDuel. And then Sonny Gray, pitching for the Twins here. He's kind of in that mid-tier range. Really like his price point at 8,800. He's one of the guys I'm really considering, and probably a little bit more overweight on him. So I think he makes one of the better tournament options. Both he and Cease do. Logan Gilbert is a guy that I'm going to have a ton of interest on. Maybe not the best matchup today, but boy, I love his stuff. I really loved him last year. Can't wait to see how he looks. I think on FanDuel, he's actually a fine tournament play because of the price. He's priced up a little bit more on DraftKings. But for me, really kind of looking at Dylan Cease, Sonny Gray, and then a little bit of Logan Gilbert in there for tournaments for me. And I definitely prefer to pay down a little bit, just because, like Derek mentioned, a lot of these guys aren't really going too far into the game to start the year.
This isn't Max Scherzer stretched out in the middle of June throwing 105 pitches or anything like that. So when pitch counts are low, you can get to Woodruff, but Mikolas, save some salary. And I think I'm with you. I like Sonny Gray as sort of that mid-tier guy who maybe has a little bit of upside today. Anything different on DraftKings, Cardi? We got to play 2 pitchers over there. Prices are pretty cheap, right? Woodruff's just 9,700. Mikolas is super cheap. Is that the pairing for you?
That's probably the way I would go. Woodruff is cheaper on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, and you get 2 pitchers, so he's easier to get, especially because we don't have like that really elite offense on this slate. Most of the offense today is in the night games. So I think Woodruff Mikolas makes a lot of sense. I think Dylan Cease is in the mix though. If you want to play him in cash, I'm fine with that. It's a good enough matchup for him. He's a good pitcher. I think I would probably rather just either get up to Woodruff or go down to Mikolas, but he's definitely an option.
All right. And then Christy, tournaments, DraftKings is pricing. Is anything different over there in terms of the players you want? It seems like, Gray, Cease, they're sort of in the similar range as they were on FanDuel. Doesn't really look like much changes.
Yeah, the one thing I would point out is, like I mentioned, Logan Gilbert is priced up over there. Drew Rasmussen is actually priced down. So if you're looking to save some money, don't mind it. He certainly has a decent matchup. So everyone kind of in that cheap range. You could maybe go Rasmussen. You could maybe throw Steele in there too if you needed to. It's hard to know how deep he's going to go, especially in his first start. But at his price, $7K is certainly cheap enough to throw him in the mix too.
I think you could probably throw Mitch Keller in there. The bat doesn't love him, but he was getting a lot of hype during spring training because he had the biggest gains in velocity during spring training this year. He had gained 4 or 5 miles an hour, was throwing, touching 100. That's kind of accounted for in the bat already, but a lot of times there's other effects that come with that sort of thing that wouldn't be accounted for. And he's 6.5K against kind of an overrated St. Louis lineup. So on a slate like this, if you want to take a shot on a guy like that in a GPP, I think that's okay.
I saw Madison Bumgarner was up 3 miles an hour in his first start compared to last year. So it's funny what happens sometimes in baseball. These guys can just get massive jumps in velocity in one single off season. So you got to pay attention to that early in the season. All right, let's move to some batters. Cardi first, FanDuel. We'll combine. I don't really think on FanDuel a catcher was really entering my cash game lineup over there today. So let's just do catcher in general, maybe stick more to DraftKings on that one. What are we looking at today?
Yeah, so the premier offense today, and I think this is gonna become a theme, is the Tampa Bay Rays, at least in my opinion. They're a really good offense, and weather-wise, they are, clearly the best hitting, weather on the slate today because they're in Tampa. The roof is closed. Everywhere else is 50 degrees or colder, but it's going to be, 72 degrees for them. So good offense, good weather, and very reasonable prices. So a lot of these Rays, I think, are going to be really good options. G-Man Choi on FanDuel, 2,400 hitting third. That seems pretty good to me. On DraftKings, Francisco Mejia, an actual catcher, 3,100. I definitely like that a lot. There's other guys you can.
You got Choi's pinch hit risk. I know the Tampa Bay likes to get funky with their lineup, switching things out. You got any I know you can pull that stuff up real fast.
Yeah, let me look at him real quick. He's he's a guy 14%. So like there's a risk, but it's not like super, super high.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm playing him on FanDuel because it just lets you get everything you want, but that is something interesting to know because you always got to pay attention outside of what like a Rosarena and Franco and probably Low, right? The Rays do get a little funky with their lineups once the game starts. So just pay attention to that. Christie catchers, if we're playing Mejia, and you've got Grandal, who will be reasonably popular because he carries name value. He's just pretty expensive on DraftKings today. What else can you do to get different, or do you just play those two guys and do something else elsewhere?
You're talking about for catcher, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think that just makes a ton of sense. Like you said, Grandal is certainly a great play too. I was just going to actually switch over here to DraftKings, but yeah, for catcher, Grandal, Mejia, I would also throw Jeffers in there too. I do like some of those Twins plays today when we get to some of the hitters and in the outfield and things like that, but I think he's a fine play too. But those are kind of the three that I'm mostly looking at even for tournaments as well.
Yeah, I'm debating on DraftKings currently Jeffers and Arozarena or Mejia and Yelich. And I know the bat prefers Mejia and Yelich by a little bit, but I might override that Cardi because I want as many. I want a Rosarena in my lineup today is basically what I'm thinking. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Moving to first, you mentioned Choi on FanDuel. There's a couple other guys. We've got the prototypical leadoff hitter, Danny Vogelbach for the Pittsburgh Pirates at 2,200 today. Is this worth it? What's your overall expectations for him? Or are we just using him because he's so cheap and then he lets you get good pitching and good bats elsewhere? And we aren't really sacrificing a lot at first base today was basically my take, is what the bat was trying to give me this morning.
Yeah. So Vogelbach's definitely in play. If you want to save the money on him, like that's fine. He's the top point per dollar guy because he's a decent hitter. He's leading off. He's got the platoon advantage. Michaelis gives up enough contact where if he runs into one, there's definitely home run potential here. So yeah, I like Vogelbach. I think Keston Hira in the same price range, 2.1K is super cheap and hitting fifth with the platoon advantage against Justin Steele, kind of another like low strikeout guy that you can run into one with. So I think if you want to punt first base with one of those two guys, you're fine to do it. Hunter Renfroe is first base eligible on DraftKings in the same lineup as Hira, which I think is really interesting. And Trey Mancini is really cheap. Like Rasmussen's like a pretty good pitcher. And he's probably not going to go like super deep. So we're going to see a lot of like good Rays bullpen guys, but 3.1K for a guy of Mancini's caliber, again, in the best kind of weather game of the slate. I think first base is really wide open. I think all those guys are good. And on FanDuel, I think Paul Goldschmidt is a good option.
Yeah, you brought up Renfroe, and I guess I was going to ask you this. I'm going to have to go through positions a little quicker later. But, I was looking at the team totals that the bat was spitting out today, and Milwaukee, right, is up pretty significantly, which is leading to guys like Renfroe and Yelich and a couple of the other Brewers. What's sticking out to you in that game that maybe Vegas isn't catching on to?
I think part of it is that Justin Steele is not very good. He's a lefty, so all these righties are going to have platoon advantage against him. There's a hitter's umpire. Again, the wind is like right on the borderline of whether it's like blowing in or like across. The bat thinks it's blowing across. So if it is going to be blowing in a little bit, like maybe the bat's just a little, just a touch too high on some of these guys, but they're also just kind of like a better offense than people think. Like I feel like the perception of the Brewers offense is that they're not that good, but they're pretty okay. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of really all it comes down to is just like, it's a pretty good offense against a bad pitcher. A lot of the guys have the platoon advantage, good umpire, that sort of thing.
All right, Christy, first base, how are we getting different?
Yeah. So for first base, I think, a couple other guys, I agree. I love Goldschmidt, especially on FanDuel, thinks he makes a great play, but I have some interest in some of the White Sox bats too, at a little bit. I think they're checking in a little bit lower ownership. So, guys like Jose Abreu should go a little bit more under the radar. So he's certainly someone different there that I'm looking at. You can play Alex Kirilloff. I mentioned some of those Twins. You can play him at first base over on DraftKings. So I like that quite a bit too for a difference. And then mentioned Mancini, Mancini and Mountcastle, I think in that Baltimore game coming in at very low ownership. I think those are a couple other guys that I like for tournaments.
All right, let's go over to second base. There's a Tampa Bay Ray that looks like he's in a pretty good spot at the second base position. Brandon Lau, he looks like the guy today, Cardi.
Yeah, he projects so much better than everybody else. Like he's just in cash games, just play him and move on. Like that's it. And then in tournaments, get different.
Yeah, you rarely see a projection at a position where, unless it's in cores or something like that, where you're 2.5 full fantasy points above, and that's what Lau is doing for the Rays today, at least with the bat. So I agree with you on that. If everyone's playing him, Christy, what else are we doing, right? Because he's definitely expensive on DraftKings. He's just 3,700 on FanDuel, so that's much easier to work. So what are some other options that have a little bit of upside to possibly outdo him, or a stack other than the Rays that you're really looking at today?
Yeah, I mentioned, it's really hard to get away from him, of course, with the price and everything too. But Luis Ariz, for the Twins, I mean, he fits in there too for cheap. And again, he's going to certainly carry some ownership, but again, I like those twin stacks. And so Lau's going to carry most of the ownership. So like getting to him. Blanco is priced up, but you could certainly get him in there. He's 5,200 over on DraftKings. But those are some guys that I'm looking at to get a little bit different, because I do think Brandon will carry a ton of the ownership today.
All right. At the third base spot, you're probably doing something a little different on both sites. I know Christy just mentioned Luis Ariz. He's cheap over on DraftKings. And then FanDuel gave us Toro hitting fifth for Seattle at third base. Are those, I was looking at the bat pre-show, Cardi. Are those the two spots currently you think you should be deploying those guys?
Yeah, so I mean, Arias is definitely a good option on FanDuel. Toro looks really good. Taylor Walls in the Rays lineup on DraftKings is is 2.4K. So like, I mean, a lot of these Rays are just gonna be really good options. Nolan Arenado is like the top raw guy. Like on FanDuel, he's cheap enough where I guess you can consider him. On DraftKings, he's like way too expensive and honestly not that good of a hitter anymore. Like third base is pretty gross. There's a lot of guys that almost everyone aside from Arenado projects within like a point of each other. So you can really make a case for just about anybody in a GPP. Yeah,
the whole thing right on FanDuel, Christy. I'm looking at third base. This is on the bat. Arenado's 10.
Yep.
Jake Berger, is that like a real person? He is at 7.59 fantasy points on FanDuel. So it's literally 2.5 fantasy points separate everybody. So what do you do on a slate like this?
Yeah, it is. It's tough. I do think on FanDuel, I think Arenado makes some sense just because some of the Cardinals are priced down over there and they make a way better stack. So would throw him out there. For a tournament play, you could maybe throw Ke'Bryan Hayes into the mix for Pittsburgh, just because, great player. No one's going to think of him. And he's priced actually really reasonably on DraftKings as well at 3,800. So I just thought he was kind of an interesting tournament play in a position that really doesn't have a lot of great depth to it.
Do we think Michaelis is going to be owned? Because if he is, then that makes that even better.
I think on DraftKings, pretty sure at 7,300. I think
I would think so, right?
In FanDuel, like he's right in there, because if you play him, you just get a couple more. I mean, Toro hitting fifth is like great, but if you didn't want to play him, right, it allows you to get up to a bigger name, maybe like an Arenado at third base or something like that. I think Woodruff's definitely going to be the most dominant on FanDuel today, but I think Michaelis is going to be much more in play for the average person on DraftKings today.
Yep.
And that gives you a little bit of leverage. What do you do? Do you take him and Reynolds and that's it, Cardi?
No, Vogelbach.
Oh yeah, Vogelbach right. Too. You play for the leadoff home run or 4 strikeouts. I guess you can do something like that. All right, let's go to shortstop. We've got Wander Franco, Willy Adames. Javi Baez can have a big game against anybody if he's not striking out. A little bit more to like at the position, Cardi, but Franco seems to be the guy you're able to get in lineups because we don't have that $11,000 pitcher, or we're not jamming in cores, we're not playing Otani, right? I think we have the salary for Franco today.
Yeah, it's definitely Franco on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you can save 600 on Adames if you want, but I think you probably just do Franco. The bet generally takes a little while to really start to like young players because so many rookies come up and they bust or they struggle right away. Like look at last year, like Alex Kirilloff, Jared Kelenic, like guys like that, just it happens so often. The bet loves Wander Franco, like thinks he's one of the best hitters in baseball already, which is just so cool to see. So yeah, he's a really good play today.
Does it like Bobby Witt?
No, it does not like Bobby Witt.
Uh-oh,
Really?
you're gonna have to change that, Cardi, because Twitter's gonna come after you. We'll go. It's always fun when the Twitter comes after Cardi on the rookies pretty much every season. So we'll have to see how that
They
plays
didn't
out.
come last year because they all sucked.
All right. So if everyone's playing Franco and probably Adames, Christie,
Yep.
Baez, Cecil be reasonably like he's, on DraftKings, probably like the third or fourth highest owned pitcher, probably the same on FanDuel as well. And Baez has the ability to have big games multiple ways. I think he's interesting for tournaments. Do you like him? And then does anyone else stand out to you?
Yeah, I would mention a couple other guys. I think you can throw Carlos Correa in there. He's priced right up there with Franco in the same price, I think on both sites really. So again, in those twin stacks, I think he's a great option. If you're looking to save some money, on FanDuel, he's at 2,100, but you've got, Paul DeJong in that St. Louis lineup. I think he's batting 6th today. So, looking to save some money, I think he's decent. You could maybe use him in a utility spot too. And then over on FanDuel too, you could also throw Polanco in there too. He has eligibility there as well. But yeah, those are really the guys I'm looking at just to get a little bit different. And I don't think it'll take much just because Franco is going to carry a decent amount of ownership.
Yeah, DeJong's cheap, and Keller Cardi mentioned the velocity, but he still gets hit around pretty regularly. Even with the uptick in velocity, it wasn't I know he had at least one or two spring starts that weren't that great. So I think DeJong very we have him at 8% owned on FanDuel. It might even be lower than that because you don't need that $2,100 player on FanDuel today. So
Exactly.
That's a nice call. All right, let's go to the outfield. How many Rays is too many Rays? There's a couple other guys, right? So let's start on FanDuel, Cardi, because I think they're two somewhat very specific sites today. So I didn't really find myself going the ultra cheap route on FanDuel because you've got, a Rosarena is 3,500. You can get up to a guy like Buxton. If you didn't use Lowe at second, of course, you can always throw him into the outfield here too. Then there's a couple other cheaper guys that fit the bill. We'll talk about it, maybe a couple more value plays on DraftKings. I just don't think they're needed on FanDuel today.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Rosarena is like the clear best guy. I mean, we love all the Rays. The question really is just like, which Rays are you playing? Because you're pretty much going to max out your Rays on both sites and cash games at least. So a Rosarena, I think on both sites is a guy you're really looking at. On DraftKings, Josh Lowe, I think is 2,600 hitting 5th for the Rays. Like I think he's one of your guys. I like the Brewers guys. I know you mentioned, maybe the bat's a little higher on them than
Talk to me on Yelich, lefty against Steele. Is there anything we don't have to worry about that today?
I mean, it's not like Yelich's projection is especially great. It's that he's too cheap for how good of a hitter he is. Lefty's not ideal, but I mean, the matchup is good. Yelich is a good hitter. Like he had a down season last year.
He was hurt all year for sure.
He was hurt all year, and he's been so good before that. Like you have to expect him to get back to being one of the better hitters in baseball. So yeah, I don't think Yelich is like a must play by any means, but he's definitely a guy who's in the mix. Andrew McCutchen in the same lineup. He's getting righty lefty. He's leading off. Another kind of older, boring guy that people don't realize is as good as he actually still is. We mentioned Hunter Renfroe on DraftKings. He's like 5,200 over there or something. On FanDuel, he's 2,900. So on FanDuel, I think Renfroe's a really good play. And you mentioned Buxton, who I really like. I know the Bat is a big fan of Buxton in general this year.
Yeah, as long as he's healthy, Buxton is certainly one of the better offensive and even defensive players in the league for sure. Christie, tournaments, right? If we're all playing Rosarena and we're playing Buxton, and I know on FanDuel, McCutchen's cheap, right? Like, what are we doing differently over there?
Yeah, so some difference. Again, getting back to some of those St. Louis guys, a guy like Tyler O'Neill,
Oh, yeah.
really like him. I mean, just I think one of the top plays on the slate for sure. And then kind of mentioned, you mentioned Buxton already, which I think those Twins stacks are a great play. But then, the White Sox, they have such a great lineup too. And to get them at a little bit lower ownership on a day like today, when there's just 5 games, guys like Luis Robert and Eloy projecting at a little bit lower ownership. So I think they're a great way to, get some difference in your lineup, and you can play them with Tampa Bay and automatically you'll be different. So those are guys I really like, specifically over on Fanduel.
All right. And then Cardi, give me your favorite 2 non-raise stacks today for tournaments.
I mean, I think we're probably looking at the Brewers. And I mean, honestly, if you look at the bat stacks pages, like they're all, aside from the Pirates, they're all like the same today. So honestly, I think it's really just like play the ownership game with them. But the Brewers, I do think the pricing's on them is good. I think they have enough star power. I would probably say the Brewers and I guess maybe the Twins.
How many games need to be on a slate this year for the Pirates to win a tournament?
One. They're gonna win a couple this year for sure. Especially because they're not as bad as people think they are, and their prices are going to be really cheap. So on the right slate, like a medium-sized slate where there's not like a really elite offense, but there's like expensive pitching you want. Like if the dynamics are right, there's going to be a couple Pirates stacks winning things this year.
All right, Christy, favorite, everyone knows Tampa Bay. Give me your favorite 2 non-Tampa Bay stacks.
I would say I'm going to go with the Twins and the White Sox for a couple ways to get a little bit different.
All right. What we're going to do now, so we are on YouTube. We are free this year from FanDuel, thanks to FanDuel. So if you guys want to post questions, I will be taking them from the RotoGrinders MLB Crunch Time one. Those are for the RotoGrinders paying subscribers or whatever like that. If they happen to run out of questions, I will go to the YouTubes and answer from the general public as well. But I will give preference to those. And while you are on YouTube, I see there's 100 plus, well over 100. Click that like button, helps other people find us, and we would greatly appreciate it as well. So I'm going back to some questions in the MLB Crunch Time channel. Again, for all your RotoGrinder subscribers, get in there and start asking them. Let's see. Yappy Cappy wants to know, let's see here, more of a tournament. He's new to baseball, but what part of the lineup would you rather have? I'm just trying. Yappy, this is I don't know what happened to you, Yappy, but I'm having a little trouble understanding what you're talking about here. What part of the lineup would you rather have on Tampa Bay, St. Louis, Minnesota, 3 or 4-man stacks? Yappy, give me a little bit more information on that, and we'll try to get to that a little better for you as well. Let's see. Don't really see too many questions. M. Ballinger just came in. A Detroit stack today, right? We haven't really talked about anyone on Detroit on the show at all today. They have they're tied for the 2nd or 3rd lowest total today. Cardi, what's your thoughts on the Tigers today? I actually think someone on the Scores and Odds app wrote them up as a bet the over on total wins this season. I think it was at like 76 or 75 because their lineup's it's a little bit better than it was last year. So what are we doing with them in tournaments today?
Yeah, I'm fine with them. Like I said, outside of a couple teams, the Pirates and maybe the Cubs against Woodruff, who probably, I mean, you can even think about doing that. But yeah, like the Tigers as a stack don't project that much worse than the Brewers, the Twins, the Cardinals, the White Sox, and you'll probably get a little leverage off of Cease. I'm fine with it. Yeah, in a tournament like I said, most of the teams project pretty close. So if you have one that's going to come in super low owned, go for it.
Yeah, Tigers look pretty low owned. Christy, can you get behind them today? I think this is a perfect slate to do something with the Tigers.
I do. And I think, I think Cheese has talked about it in a couple of articles he's written this year too, especially this early on in the season. Yeah, getting exposure to all different teams is great. And Detroit does have a stronger lineup than they have, and they've got Spencer Torkelson. He's just kind of getting started too. So yeah, absolutely. I could certainly see them doing well today, and wouldn't mind them at all.
All right, BHB is a DraftKings cash question, Cardi. So we'll try to answer that for him. He's got Caratini, Wells, and Buxton, or Mejia, Luis Arias, and Kepler.
Read that one more time for me.
Caratini, Wells, and Buxton. Mejia, Arias, Kepler.
I think I go with the first one,
Oh.
but I don't dislike either.
All right. So Yappy wants to know, would you rather have hitters 1 through 3 or hitter 3 for 6 for when you're making stacks? I guess I'll go to Christy, who sort of plays, those qualifiers, those winner take alls. What gets you to the top in those?
Yeah. And was this for Tampa Bay in specific, or just
I think so. I guess just in general, maybe.
just in general? No, I do like to get a little bit different, and I'm not even afraid to do like a 9, 1, 2, 3 kind of wrap around that way too. But I do, especially on chalkier slates, like, tonight would be a good example with the Dodgers. I think getting different like that is a great way to approach it in a tournament.
Okay, let's go. Floors Mark. He says, Cardi, what's up? And he wants to know, what's your favorite stack today?
I mean, just like raw stack, like the Rays are the best stack, but they're also going to be the highest owned. So if you're going to play a Rays stack, you need to find a way to differentiate somehow. But really, again, I think all of the offenses are pretty kind of condensed after that. So play a lower owned one. So like the ones that look pretty good from like an ownership perspective, like Detroit, the more I think about it, the more I think Detroit's a really good stack today, or Seattle, maybe the White Sox. Like, just play whoever everyone else is not going to play. That's kind of it today, because there's not a lot differentiating them.
All right, and Blender has joined the show in the form of Derek Carty. Didn't think that would ever happen. That's what's happened. Play whoever you want has managed to show up here. Boolies wants to know which one of these teams has used their bullpen so far the most this season. I'm not, so I'll tell you how I'm thinking. I haven't really looked at bullpen usage yet, because these teams all kept like 4,000 relief pitchers, and it's not really concerning to me. Is that sort of how you're handling it, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, it's only been 2 days, and I think, I mean, has any team played twice yet? I don't think it.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe,
I think a couple teams have.
A couple, yeah. I think maybe 4 teams have played twice already, so I'm not worried about it. No bullpen's really going to be in bad shape right now. It's really just a matter of like the quality of the relievers in the bullpen. There's no fatigue issue.
All right. D-Dot wants to know, FanDuel tournaments, Josh Lowe or Jonathan Scope?
I'd go low for Tampa Bay. I like his batting order position today, so I'd go low.
All right. M. Ballinger, he wants to know, you should have kept Detroit to yourself, because that's now all we're talking about here.
Sorry about that.
I see that's about done it for the Discord. Again, if any of you are RotoGrinder subscribers, if you post in the MLB Crunch Time channel, I will get to those immediately for you. I go to YouTube. This is from Gibran Bedra. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Spencer Torkelson, right? So good prospect. Detroit, he's down in the lineup today. Is he someone that would garner some attention in tournaments for anybody?
In a Tiger stack, sure. But he's a rookie. We know how the bat generally feels about rookies.
The projection doesn't look really good.
I mean, he's cheap enough today where you can think about doing it. But like just in terms of like raw points, like I think Vogelbach is a better play for that, really cheap. I think Hira is probably a better play, but he's fine. I mean, there's certainly upside.
Christy, what's your take on Torkelson?
Yeah,
just another Tiger.
Yeah, exactly. Another Tiger. He's batting 8. I think he went 0 for 4 yesterday. So, he's just kind of getting started. In Tiger stacks, I absolutely love him. Don't mind him as a one-off for sure, because he carried a very low ownership yesterday too. So don't mind him at all. I think he's going to be a good play as the season goes on.
All right. Devin, he gets special treatment. He is in the crunch time. Christy, he wants to know Cubs stack 2 out of 20 lineups. He's using lineup HQ probably and wants to know, is that okay?
I think it is, because again, low ownership and any of the teams are in play. So I think that's a good play.
Cardi, what's your take on so on a slate like this, where I think Woodruff is certainly going to be the highest owned pitcher,
For sure.
and you've mentioned the Cubs have the lowest team total. I think they're right around with Baltimore today. What does the bat have the Cubs team total at today?
Let me take a quick peek.
I think it was a little higher. I think it was around 4.
379. So about basically in line with Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't think a Cub stack is crazy today. It's not like Woodruff projects like super well. And again, because it's so early in the season, like he's not going to go as deep into games as like an ace normally would. So like you'll get some bullpen behind him, which for a lot of pitchers is not a good thing. But when you have an ace, it's an improvement for the hitters. So I don't mind that.
And everyone give our producer Devin a hat tip on his mini tournament takedown that he had yesterday. I believe he was using a little product called the Bat Cardi, if I heard correctly pre-show. So a little hat tip to Mr. Devin on that one. Eagles, this is from the YouTube chat. He wants to know your favorite starting pitcher on DraftKings. So maybe Cardi, late in the show, maybe a couple people missed pitching. Really run down what's happening on pitching here for everybody to close out the show.
Yeah, so I mean, pitching's really gross. But Woodruff is definitely the top raw guy. On DraftKings, he's easy enough to get to, but it's not like he's projecting for a ton of points where like he's definitely going to smash and you have to have him. In cash, I think you just play him. And then I think you probably play Miles Michaelis with him. He's 7.3K. He's one of the most stretched out pitchers of the whole day. He's facing the Pirates. So I like Michaelis. I think Dylan Cease is also in the mix. I think you play 2 of those 3 in cash games. And then in GPPs, you can definitely, do things to get different. Like if you want to play a Rays stack today, you're probably not playing him with Brandon Woodruff. You got to do something else.
And then Christy, what's your favorite dart throw low owned starting pitcher for tournaments?
For both sites?
Sure. Whatever you want.
Yeah. I think for FanDuel, I would throw, I think I'd throw Gilbert in there because I think he's very intriguing. On DraftKings, I think I would also throw Rasmussen. I think he has a good price. We don't know how far he's going to go, but I do like his price over there.
All right. I'm going to try to pull up some backed bets for a couple people to close out the show here. Maybe a couple props or something like that. Cardi, do you've got the bat, you've got sports books in New Jersey. Are you a multimillionaire yet? I'm hoping the answer is yes. So I'm using it to power a lot of my sports bets this year.
Yeah, the bat has been really, really good for betting. Herman Marquez's strikeout under today looked really good. The best line I found was at PointsBet 3.5 plus 125.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned earlier the bat is super, super high on the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It sees Marquez getting hit around a pretty good amount. Potential to just come out early because he's getting shelled, but it's Coors, it's 80 degrees. There's a hitter's umpire. The Dodgers are a low strikeout offense in addition to being an all-star lineup. And there's DH this year. So that was one of the better bets that stuck out.
Yeah, I hit the over 6.5 on that. That was basically the first thing I did this morning for the Dodgers team total on that one. Once I saw the bat projection on that one, that looked like there was a lot of edge there. Let's see if I got any questions here. Let's see. Nothing in Discord. Let's go to the YouTubes. We'll see if there's any final questions. I don't really see any there. What's if you had to give a couple home runs for the early slate today, Cardi, who's looking most likely to hit home runs?
I mean, I think we're probably dealing with quite a few of these Rays guys. Let me see who the bat has, who it likes the most for home runs. So Brandon Lau projects for the best chance. Then you have Byron Buxton, Hunter Renfroe, Tyler O'Neill, like the good expensive guys, really.
I'm looking for the best bets from the early games in terms of home runs. Seems like all the good ones are later in the day. So maybe Renfroe looks like, at least versus the books, one of the better bets to hit a home run if you're home run shopping out there for a nice little bet. So we did reach lock. That's Baltimore, Tampa Bay, White Sox, and Detroit. And unlike the NBA, they actually start the games when the games are supposed to start, thankfully. So we can all start watching those. I actually like Christy, I'll talk about this now that I have sports betting. I like the NBA model where, right, when lock hits, right, because then I'm doing all my DFS stuff. Then I can go place a couple of sports bets. I don't have the time to do that in baseball anymore. Like I wanted to get a Randy Arozarena bet in, but I forgot about it, and now I'm on the show. I'm just not going to have time to do it. They cut me off. So it's like a love-hate with these start times for me.
Oh, for sure. It really is, isn't it?
I guess that's probably gonna about do it. Dan Jan, real quick, let's see. The Tigers, he wanted a Tigers single entry on DraftKings. Everyone wants the Tigers. So whoever brought up the Tigers, if everyone in chat and was watching the show went to the Tigers, the ownership on the Tigers, what did we quadruple it probably on the show with all of our late talk on it? No questions on Discord. I don't see any on the YouTubes either. What do we say we get out of here? I'm going to be back tonight with, I think, Keith, and I think it's Andre. We're going to talk a little basketball. So the basketball slate tonight, if you're going to be tuning in, is a little weird. There's like, it's a 6 o'clock start, but then 2 of the games aren't until 9:30. So we'll hit on a couple of the 2 late basketball games, and then we'll also hit on the late slate of baseball, which we get to use all of those Dodgers Cardi was talking about. So we're going to have a Coors Fest on the late show today. Make sure to tune into that. And other than that, Christy, it was fun. Derek, again, thanks for the bat, and good luck with not only are you the creator of the bat and the blitz, but also the baby. So congratulations on fatherhood. I'm following you right behind. I'm looking forward to it. And it's just a fun time to be in sports and everything and on that. So thanks to everyone for watching. Click the like button on your way out on the YouTubes. And for Christy and Derek, I'm Britt, and we out you.